It's 6 p.m. on a start to a brand new week here in Korea. Thank you for joining us. I'm Daniel Che for Arirang News. Let's start with the headlines. Korea's main opposition party, focused on stopping the government's move to have complete control over history textbooks, decides to return to parliament to attend to a pile of urgent issues, including next year's budget and the passage of several economy and reform-related bills. South Korea and Iceland agreed to strengthen cooperation on the Arctic region, which translates to a potential massive trimming of money and time for shipping companies. The historic election in Myanmar boasted a voter turnout of over 80%. The result the people await is seemingly becoming more about how big of a win will it be for the party fronted by the globally recognized political figure Aung San Suu Kyi. The National Assembly is finally back on track this Monday. This includes the New Politics Alliance for Democracy party, which last week boycotted proceedings in protest over the government's decision to state-author history textbook, once again joining in. But possibilities of further bipartisan conflict remain. Park Geunhye starts us off.
Several of the National Assembly's standing committees, as well as a special budget committee, have resumed deliberations on pending bills and budget items this Monday. The Budget Committee in particular has a very busy schedule ahead, as it is facing an early December deadline to complete work on the government's budget for next year. The committee met just twice last week, and without the main opposition NPAD, since the Liberal Party boycotted them in protest over the government's move to reintroduce a state-issued history textbook for secondary schools. But they have returned to Parliament to fully assume their responsibilities and take up pressing legislation. The ruling Saenuri Party welcomed the move to normalize Parliament.
We're facing a pileup of current issues, including next year's budget and the passage of several economy and reform-related bills. We need to end wasteful debates on history education and focus on bipartisan cooperation to push policies.
The main opposition NPAD remains adamantly against the government's decision to bring back state-issued history textbooks, but now is taking a two-track approach. While the Liberal Party will cooperate on legislative duties, it plans to continue protesting the issue. And their concern and criticism continued on Monday.
The current administration is trying to enforce conformist history education on our children, but it is going to destroy students' creativity.
Meanwhile, leaders of the main rival parties, together with National Assembly Speaker Chung Eui-hwa, agreed to honor the deadline that was set for redrawing electoral districts ahead of next year's general elections, which ends this Friday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories, President Park Geunhye hosted visiting Icelandic President Olafur Ragnar Grimsson at the presidential office of Changwon on Monday. According to our Kwon-so-wa, the two agreed on deepening their bilateral partnership and on stronger cooperation in the Arctic.
The first ever visit to South Korea by an Icelandic president since diplomatic ties were established in 1962 has resulted in the two countries' leaders agreeing on deeper bilateral ties and strengthening cooperation in the Arctic region. According to the presidential office of Cheongwon Monday, President Park and President Olafur Ragnar Grimsson laid out groundwork for shortening the trade route between Europe and Asia in a bid to save costs and time for shipping companies. The North Pole route would reduce travel time from Korea's southern port city of Busan to the Netherlands' southern city of Rotterdam by over 30%, or from 40 to 30 days, from the conventional route through the Indian Ocean and Suez Canal. This would provide Korea and Iceland an excellent opportunity to boost trade. Last year, Korea's exports to Iceland were worth $3.1 million, especially in cars and tires, while it imported products worth $2.6 million, mainly fish and fur. Park and Grimsson also exchanged their experiences in renewable energy. While Iceland is the #1 in producing renewable energy among the 34 OECD nations, Korea is at the bottom, giving it opportunities to accumulate knowledge in the field. The two leaders also talked about global issues such as climate change and shared views on the current regional situations in Northeast Asia and Europe. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
A new report shows that a 1 percentage point drop in China's gross domestic product could drag down Korea's GDP by up to 0.6 percentage points. The Korea Development Institute says slowing growth in the world's second largest economy would damage Korea's exports and corporate profitability, directly cutting its growth rate by 0.2 percentage points. As China's growth has a direct impact on emerging economies and the global economy as a whole, the think tank projects an additional cut of between 0.2 to 0.4 percentage points. Hyundai Motor and its affiliate Kia Motors were the top-selling foreign brands in Germany in October amid an overall drop in demand for imported cars. Data from a German automobile association show the combined sales of the two Korean brands surpassed 14,000 units last month. Hyundai sales inched up 0.4% on-year to over 9,000 units. Kia sales spiked more than 4% to over 5,000 units. This comes despite an on-year drop of over 5% in imported car sales in Germany. Scandal-ridden Volkswagen saw its sales drop at home by 0.7% from last October, despite a rise in the combined sales of German brands. North Korea's Marshal of the Korean People's Army, Ri Sol, died of cancer at age 94. His passing prompted North Korea to release the list of officials for the funeral committee, but the secretary of the Workers' Party, Choi Ryong-hae, is absent, raising speculation over his fate. Kim Hyun-bin has the latest on the reclusive regime's movers and shakers.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has expressed condolences on the death of Ri Sol, who died from lung cancer over the weekend. Lee was Marshal of the Korean People's Army. According to the Korean Central News Agency on Monday, the communist leader visited the mortuary where Ri's body was held on Sunday. A state funeral is planned for Wednesday. Lee held numerous key posts in the KPA and was appointed Marshal of the North's military in 1995. Pyongyang has released the composition of the official 170-strong funeral committee. But the list doesn't include Choi Ryong-hae, the secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, raising speculation about his fate. South Korea's Unification Ministry said on Monday it will analyze the list to see if there are any changes to the communist regime's power hierarchy, and added it is unusual for Choi not to be listed. Chung Seung-chang, a senior researcher at the Sejong Institute, says Choi may have been ousted from the party. Chung says there are also other changes in the North's hierarchy and points to the director of the Korean People's Army, Hwang Byung-seo, who seems to have moved up one rung on the ladder to become third highest in the communist regime's hierarchy. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
With vote counting still underway in Myanmar after the nation's first free general elections in 25 years, there is growing speculation Aung San Suu Kyi's National League of Democracy will come away with an historic landslide win. Voter turnout for Sunday's election exceeded 80%. An LDP spokesperson says Suu Kyi's party has so far won about 70% of votes counted. If confirmed by official results, this indicates a landslide victory that would bring a major power shift away from the military. The country's election commission has reportedly brought forward announcement of the first result from 6 p.m. local time to 4 p.m. local time. The final tally is expected on Tuesday. Security officials in Egypt and the United States are expressing growing confidence that a bomb scattered a Russian plane across the Sinai Peninsula more than 1 week ago. All the evidence seems to point to a device planted by the Islamic State militant group. Oh Soo-young takes a closer look.
9 days have passed since the crash, but the world still waits for the official report on what caused the Russian Metrojet plane to crash in the Sinai Peninsula. However, it's becoming increasingly apparent to many that the plane came down as a result of a bomb. Even Egypt, which has been calling for patience until the probe is over, says it's 90% sure a bomb brought the plane down. The investigators' remarks come less than a day after Cairo said a noise consistent with that of an explosion had been heard on the black box just before the plane broke up in mid-air.
Successfully downloaded, and the first listening was done. Although the CVR team is still in the phase of writing the transcript, which will take time to finalize, a noise was heard in the last second of the CVR recording.
US security experts are also voicing strong suspicions that it was a terrorist attack. Michael McCall, chairman of the US House Homeland Security Committee, said there was a high degree of confidence the Islamic State militant group or one of its affiliates planted a bomb on the airplane. Another official said he was 99.9% certain it was a bomb. International security experts had initially dismissed IS's claims that its local branch had downed the plane. To identify the nature of the noise, Egypt's lead investigator said a spectral analysis will be carried out by specialized labs. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
As one of Korea's many official development assistance plans, the Korea Tourism Organization invited more than 70 participants from 15 different countries to share the success of Korea's tourism industry. Lee Ji-won tells us more about the Global Tourism Leaders Forum.
Jeju-do Island, Hanok Village, Myeongdong are famous tourist spots in Korea. But a country cannot simply attract tourists with its sceneries. It needs to follow the trend and taste of the changing tourists of today. This is one of the messages highlighted by Kim Sang-tae, director of the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute, during the 2015 Global Tourism Leaders Forum held in Seoul on Monday. Kim's presentation addressed the trends of cultural tourism and tourism policies in Korea. According to the Korea expert, if the late 1990s were about mass tourism focused on nature and package tours, the 2010s has called for more of a creative approach. This could be touching on the experiences of the Korean people's culture and daily lives. Kim cited temple stay as one of the successful products reflecting today's trends.
Among Korea's official development assistance, tourism is an important sector. By inviting the recipient countries, Korea would like to share the know-hows for a successful tourism industry.
The forum invited leaders of Korea's tourism industry to share their success stories with other countries. Participants invited from 15 countries took note of new suggestions and also presented their own country reports.
In Colombia, we have many challenges, and we learned that here in the forum. For example, we have to improve our converge between culture, tourism, and IT technologies. And we have to improve as well the investment in tourism, in cultural tourism in Colombia.
After the forum, participants will be offered various training programs to gain hands-on experience in tourism policies and hotel service, helping them gain more insights on Korea's tourism industry. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
In downtown Seoul today, an international women's group hosted its annual bazaar to raise funds for Korean charities. Visitors who joined in to support the cause were richly rewarded with a chance to experience exotic goods and food. Lee Soo-eun takes us to the Siwa Bazaar.
A ribbon-cutting ceremony opened the 53rd Annual Seoul International Women's Association Bazaar in downtown Seoul today. Joined by several political and economic figures, the event was then handed over to charity groups and vendors from around the world to begin their sales.
This vase from Iran, painted in vivid blue, and these fancy leather boots from Portugal are just some of the things that you can find at today's bazaar. What's even better is that the profits go to support a good cause.
We shop, we eat, we spend money here, and everything gets donated to charity. Not just in Seoul, but around the Korean Peninsula. We give money to over 30 charities every year.
Embassies and cultural groups representing some 39 countries gathered under the theme Share Culture, Share Love, Share Life to join the initiative.
What brings us out to the Siwa Bazaar is the spirit of giving, actually, to give back to the people we live with in the community who are in need, hopefully women and children who are in need.
Siwa is a Seoul-based women's group with over 400 members from 40 nations, and it's been around the city engaging in charitable activities for more than 50 years.
So we bring women from so many different parts of the world together to create friendship. And while we're also engaging in cultural exchange, that also enriches our lives. And we also work on charity to help the less fortunate in Korea.
With around 4,000 to 5,000 people attending this year's event, Siwa's Bazaar, just like its slogan, shared culture, love, and life with the community. Lee Soo-eun, Arirang News.
South Korea, like many other advanced countries around the world, is suffering from a growing rate of child obesity. More than a quarter of boys in South Korea are now considered obese, and this is a much bigger proportion than the number of overweight girls. Son Jung-in sheds light on this issue.
Recent OECD data showed the obesity rate among Korean male children aged between 5 and 17 was 26.4% in 2013. This is almost double the rate for Korean girls within the same age group, where the rate was slightly over 14%. In comparison, the average obesity rate for children in the 33-member countries surveyed showed little difference between children by gender, with only 2.2 percentage point gap in the rate. Poland was the only country with a larger gap than Korea. Most other European and Western countries like Germany, France, the UK, Canada, and Australia had relatively narrow obesity rate gaps between genders. Experts here say this trend could be attributed to young girls being under social pressure to conform to idealized body standards, which is considered more serious for Koreans compared to other nationalities. Doctors warn that extreme dieting at an early age can cause osteoporosis, anemia, or menstrual irregularity, and in some cases even cause anorexia. Others stress the need for the government to ensure the mass media restricts people's unnecessary exposure to skinny models or celebrities, a move that is being pushed by other countries, including Italy and Spain. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
And that's all from us at this hour. As always, thank you for watching.